Welcome to Sinkowitz, hosted by the fearless Linda Sinkowitz. She's syncing you up with the latest in election integrity, from breaking headlines to critical updates you won't hear anywhere else. With Linda, it's facts first as she leads the fight for one vote for one legal voter. Stay informed, stay empowered. Let's jump in.
Hi, and welcome to Sinkowitz. My name is Linda Sinkowitz. This is episode 21. You're watching us on OBBM Network TV, so thank you to everyone out there. Now, this week, besides my guest that we have, Raj Doraisamy, he is from Defend Florida. He will be on very shortly. The states that we're going to cover today are Kansas, Maine, Michigan, Nebraska, Nevada, Pennsylvania. We'll have our national information, and then we're going to have our vote notes, which again is with more information from Michigan. Then we're going to have our trivia question, and at the end, I'm going to give you some of my thoughts. So let's jump into it right now with Raj. Welcome. Thank you so much for being on.
Oh, Linda, thank you for having me on. Thank you for the folks listening, to give us some time to have this conversation. I'm just so excited to be here with you, Linda, and just so inspired by the consistency of the work you've done, the organization that you're leading. And as you can see, all the work that you guys have done, we've done, it's making a difference.
It is. Thank you so much for the compliments. And you guys have been out there for how long has Defend Florida been around?
So great question. Sometimes people are like, who is this guy? And, what's his background? January 7th, 2021, not January 6th, January 7th, I woke up in my hotel room in Washington, D.C., and I opened my phone, and there was a tweet. We call them tweets back then. And the president said, I'm leaving D.C. And for some reason at that time, I thought, oh my God, Washington is so corrupt, so much manipulation by special interest groups and bullies and thugs. We have to defend Florida, which is where I'm from. We have to defend Florida from all of that corruption, because I thought Florida was this pristine, pure state. So January 7th, 2021 is when the idea Defend Florida started. And since then, the brilliant volunteers of Defend Florida have canvassed half the state. That work was codified, documented, and helped push into place Senate Bill 524 into law, which is one of the most aggressive, transparent, and accountable piece of election reform in Florida history. So that's what we've been doing, and that's when we started.
Yeah, and you also do a show with Steve Stern, like every couple weeks.
Yes.
That is seen around the world now.
Steve Stern is amazing. The show is available on sternamerican.com. And you're right, it is and you're almost every time you're there, because the work that your organization doing has to be made known to the viewing public. And in addition to folks like yourself, we have other leaders talking specifically about what needs to be done on elections. And because of Steve's amazing work and the millions of people he's got this in front of, you can now see that what has been spoken about by your organization, ours, Stern American, for years now, is now being pushed out by the president himself, as you all know, in the post that he put out now 48 hours ago, as of the time we're taping, where he has made and he's made a declaration that he is going to sort out this vote by mail manipulation. He's going to address the concerns that so many Americans have about the lack of transparency with these machines that are being used. It's a lot of work, and Steve Stern, to your point, is just a champion for the cause.
Yes, he is. So why don't you tell us about Defend Florida and the stuff that we should know about right now?
Yeah, so fantastic. Thank you. So I mentioned a little bit about how Defend Florida started. In fact, I'm going to actually show my screen, if you would, and I'm going to show our website, because on this website here, and you can see that right here, my friends, you'll see a weekly call that we do. every week on Tuesday. So if you're interested, please do go to defendflorida.org. Just click this box here, and it will connect you to a form where you can become part of our weekly Zoom call. It's completely free. But the reason I brought this up, is we are approaching now legislative session. And so what we are doing now is we're taking the bills that we had put forward last year, and you can see them right here, and you can see right here, vote by mail. So many of the volunteers have been working very, very hard on this. You can even see the technology issue. These are both topics that the president now has put front and center with his declaration 48 hours ago. These are the bills that we in Florida are pushing forward this coming legislative cycle. But the thing I want to share with you, the viewing audience, is a little bit of a larger picture. And to illustrate what I mean by that, I'm going to talk a little bit about something that may shock most of the people that are on this, that are watching this program. And the reason it's going to shock you potentially is because since that time that we put those pieces of legislation forward that I mentioned earlier in our conversation, something dramatic has happened in Florida, and likely it's happening in your state as well. You can see the list of bills that are on the screen here. These are all related to elections. Now, what I'm going to share with you, my friends, because I know not all of you that are watching this may be as focused on elections as some of us are, but I want to share with you something happening in the red state of Florida. And so specifically, we have started a project called the Reclaim Campaign. And the reason I want to share this with you, watching this from all over the country, is here in the conservative state of Florida, there's been a systematic, organized effort to literally silence the voice of its citizens. And if it's happening here in the red state, I am certain it's happening in your state as well. And I want to give you some examples. Mm-hmm. These are all Florida. The first thing that you see on the screen right here is not election integrity. It's just the bill to prevent putting mRNA vaccine ingredients in your food. We wanted to get this bill passed for obvious reasons. It's not controversial. This was blocked. Here's another bill, Senate Bill 396. This was designed to make sure that the vote by mail process, which the president has now put front and center, is not manipulated. That bill was blocked. Here is the president's agenda. I don't know if you, my friends watching this, know that the president has actually got an agenda for the entire nation in writing, and you'll see the website here in a second. But you can see that on his agenda, election integrity is massively important, and in particular, he wants to make sure that only citizens are voting. Why I put that on the screen? Because we wanted to get a bill passed also that made sure that non-US citizens cannot vote. That bill was blocked. So you're seeing a pattern here. Before I leave this, I just want to address a couple more topics that I want to make sure that it connects with all of you watching, even those of you that may not be focused on election integrity, or those of you are, but you have friends who care, but they're not really into election integrity. This is parental rights. You can see here that the president has made it clear that he wishes to restore parental rights. So we put a bill forward requiring parental consent before medical treatment was offered to minors, including abortion-related treatment. That bill also blocked. It is startling the types of bills that have been blocked and the bills that have been advanced. We are finding now that this issue here on the screen, where developers are coming into your county and bringing massive development, which is good, but often they're not putting the infrastructure, the roads, the drainage to support the development. We noticed that this is a trend throughout the country. So we noticed that they were trying to advance a bill, fast track it, that would take the authority from your county and push it to the state. That was advanced. Thankfully, it got blocked. So again, a huge trend here. This is one last thing before I go into my next point here, and that is Donald Trump has made it clear that he wishes to terminate the socialist Green New Deal. This is part of his agenda. You can see the website here if you want to get to it yourself. It's donaldjtrump.com/platform. Despite the president making this clear, in the state of Florida, our electric company has purposely invested in solar energy and wind energy and has purposely reduced its investment on coal, natural gas, which are highly productive pieces of energy. Solar, wind just doesn't produce enough energy. If you don't know about Dave Walsh Energy, he's been featured on Bannon. Make sure you follow him. And I'm sharing this with you because there are so many things across the board that are establishment, people who don't want Trump's agenda to move forward at your state level and your county level, are manipulating the system to block your voice. Because of all of that, we came up with the Reclaim campaign. And before I go any further on the Reclaim campaign, I want to just put this out here because there are a lot of people out there that are saying to themselves, man, Raj, this is interesting information. I love Linda Sinkowitz. I'm always watching her podcasts and her shows. But, I'm not the one to make the change. Linda is the one. She'll do it. She's got her team or Steve Stern or President Trump or who. No, my friends, I want to ask you to consider that that's actually not the play. In fact, what I'd like you to consider is that, in fact, the Bible, again, it's not a religious conversation, but this is what drives me. Jesus is very clear, and he says, you have to go and teach others what you've been taught. So whatever you've learned from Linda's show, it's your job. I'm sorry. I'm just telling you what the Bible says. It's your job to share that with other people in your life. So with that said, some of the things that we want to draw to your attention right now. In fact, let me just look at the time here. It looks like I think we've got about maybe 7 minutes or so. One of the things we're drawing attention is first, you, my friends, have the opportunity not only to share what you've been taught, but also at your local level, encompass a conversation to people that are in these different areas, not just election integrity, because we need to accumulate more political force in order to overcome the planned establishment-driven opposition to the things we care about. How do we get enough mass, enough political power to compete with the establishment and overcome their agenda of blocking the things that we want, as I mentioned to you earlier? One way is you get folks from these different camps, the health freedom folks, the election integrity, reclaiming finances, the faith, the Second Amendment, family movements, veterans. Be the hub that brings all of those groups together, because when you assemble those people in your county, you have an opportunity to become dominant. And you have to be thinking dominance. You have to be thinking, what do I need to do so that our voice for freedom becomes a dominant voice over the establishment in your local area? Because when you do it locally, you'll get it to your region, then you'll get it to your state, and that's how we will support the president on things that he's doing. I'm jamming a lot of information here, but I want to just touch on a couple of things here in the few minutes that I have left here, and that is, in addition to bringing the groups together, I want to urge you to follow the training that we have at reclaimcampaign.com, because on that training, you will get very specific ideas and tactics on how you can get better candidates to win in your primaries coming up next year. My friends, for so long, we have been outsmarted and outmaneuvered when it came to the primaries, and an establishment candidate gets put in the primaries and then wins in the general. Your opportunity, if you're an America First person, if you're a MAGA person, in order for you to get your policies, your ideals implemented, you have to find a candidate that is highly capable of leading people and effectively persuading folks and raising money and get them to win in the primaries. That's number one. Number two, you got to get better at fundraising, and you got to start that now. I don't have time to get into all of the aspects of that in this call, but you certainly need to do that. Did you say something, Linda? Sorry.
No, I'm agreeing with you. Now is the time to get involved. Now's the time to find the people, not later. We need it now.
The opposition has already found their people. They're already funding their people. And almost every many grassroots groups that I work with and talk with, because I travel the state talking to them, they don't have a slate yet. They only know what they don't want, but they haven't identified the candidate that they do want. So important. Last thing here, I'm going to skip this over here and go to this slide here. I just want to lean into this. One of the things that I've noticed as I work with groups throughout the country is that our groups are so easy to faction and fraction. I don't like what she said. I don't like what he said. I can't believe what she posted on Facebook. Did you see what he... My friends, I'm urging you to ask God to give all of us, me included, the Christ-like attitude to have more grace with the people in our movement, to be more forgiving of the many mistakes we all make. Because if we continue to be focused on our ego and what we think is correct, we will be factioned and fractioned, and they're going to steamroll us. President Trump is in the White House for just pretty much his power base is there for another 2 years, just less than 2 years. We have got to get our stuff together and collaborate in spite of our differences. One last thing, I'm going to try and jam this into this call here. So this last thing I'm going to try to share is this. We have a blueprint, and you can get this blueprint by going to reclaimcampaign.com, clicking on the main. So you go to reclaimcampaign.com right here. Elect Trump, MAGA, and MAHA candidates. If that strikes you the right way, click this button over here. It's going to give you this document over here. And this document, my friends, is going to share with you at the precinct level what we can do to increase our political force, our political power, and make sure that our candidates are put in office this coming primaries. In Florida, it's August 18th. In other states, it's probably sooner. So please consider connecting with this. Again, the website is going to be reclaimcampaign.com, reclaimcampaign.com, and all the information that is shared is there. So, Linda, that was a lot of information. I jammed. I'm done with the screen now. So thank you, Olivia, for putting that on.
I was going to say thank you so much for coming on and giving us this information. So your weekly podcast or call that you have is every Tuesday, and how can people sign up for that?
Yeah, perfect. All you do to be part of the free Tuesday 7 p.m. Eastern call is you go to defendflorida.org, defendflorida.org. There's a blue button at the top of the screen, at the middle of the screen. Click it. Defendflorida.org. Click the blue button. It'll give you a form. Fill that form out, and you'll have a link to our free Tuesday call. Just on tonight. Well, you guys might be watching this later. As the time we're taping this today, we are having on that program, just to give you an example, a candidate that is running for office. Their race is September 30th because they have a special election. And this candidate, the reason we're working with this candidate is this candidate is so committed to the election integrity ideals that the president is looking for. And if we can get this person into legislation, that's going to increase the number of people representing us that have a backbone to stand for what is right. So defendflorida.org, blue button, click it, and it's 7 p.m. every Tuesday, Linda. Hopefully a bunch of the folks that are watching the show will check it out.
I hope so too. And we will definitely have you back on in the future, Raj. I really appreciate all the information that you've given the listeners. So thank you again so much for coming on Sinkowitz.
Oh, you're so welcome. Great opportunity to kind of visit with you again. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. You too. And right now we're going to go to a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Infamous ballot drop box.
Wanda's been arrested.
Around the world, people are aware of Wanda, the ballot stuffer.
When fraud cancels you.
3 other Bridgeport Democrats were charged.
It's outrageous.
Take the freedom of our vote.
You gotta fight.
We're supposed to have quick justice.
Linda Sinkowitz is the election integrity watchdog in America's corner. Digging into the data to scrub the voter rolls clean, protecting your rights, respecting our Constitution. For years, Linda's mission-driven advocacy has helped preserve the Republic, exposing corruption.
The Chief State's Attorney's Office is not doing their job.
Speaking truth to power. It's pretty simple. One vote for one legal voter. FightVoterFraud.org.
Join the Army.
And welcome back to Sinkowitz. My name's Linda Sinkowitz. I'm the founder and CEO of Fight Voter Fraud. And you're watching us on OBBM Network TV. Our guest this week was Raj Doraisamy from Defend Florida, and he had a tremendous amount of information that he gave us. So hopefully everyone will check out not only his weekly call that he has, but both of the websites that we had talked about. So now we're going to go to our first state of the week, and this one is Kansas. And we have two different sources for the two different topics we're going to be talking about with Kansas. The first one is Ad Astra Radio, and it was from August 11th. The second story on Kansas is a local KCTV5, also from August 11th. So McPherson County Clerk Holly Maroy said during Monday's election canvass by county commissioners, 3 provisional ballots were allowed. And what's the significance of this? Well, the significance is Ron Baylock picked up 2 additional votes, allowing him to get the 4th spot for November. Now, Patrick Lambert had been 1 vote ahead before the ballots were allowed to count, so Baylock got 18 votes to Lambert's 17. Others on the ballot for November are James Ratzleff, Ryan Durst, and Dave Whitcomb. Now, there is an example of every vote counting. We know everybody's vote needs to count. But this was by 1 vote that they're allowed to move forward on the November ballot. So again, wow. In other Kansas news, Kansas City announces voting changes ahead of Frank White recall. So they have a special election involving the effort to recall Jackson County Executive Frank White has Kansas City Election Board having fewer polling locations, but they'll have additional no-excuse absentee voting locations available for those in need. The registration deadline is Wednesday, September 3rd, 2026. The absentee voting with excuse begins on Tuesday, August 19th, and no excuse absentee voting begins Tuesday, September 16th, and KCEB and other locations are where that's going to be at. So the election day info, Tuesday, September 30th. The polls will open 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. And that is in Kansas. I know that was a lot of bit of information for one particular state with a number of different things that are going on there. Now we're going to go to Maine. Maine, this is from WMTV ABC 8 on August 11th, and the Maine Morning Star on August 11th. So again, we have 2 different stories that we're going to quickly speak about. So Maine can't enforce election interference law passed by voters in 2023. This is according to the court. Likely, they said, it violates the Constitution by limiting political donations. Now, the voters passed this in 2023, 84% to 14%. That's a big amount of people to ban foreign governments and companies with 5% or more foreign government ownership from donating to state referendum races. The law is on the books, but it can't be enforced and is pending being sent back to a lower court. That's crazy. Why do you want to have foreign involvement in our elections? And here, Maine is trying to do something right, but the court's going, no. And I mean, there's been some pushback from a number of companies out there. So we'll keep an eye on that. And not surprising, our next story has to do with the letter rejecting the Department of Justice request for voter data. I'm going to remind everybody, the ones that seem to be rejecting the Department of Justice, which is trying to find out exactly what's going on in every state because of all the different issues, that it appears again a blue state, Maine, is now rejecting what the Department of Justice has asked for. So the Secretary of State, Sheena Bellows, officially responded to the Department of Justice request for data. Bellows is a Democrat and is now running for governor in Maine. Now, she responded with, quote, grave concerns about seemingly overboard scope of Department of Justice information and records requests, which do not appear to be correlated with legitimate investigatory needs. Unquote. Really? Anyway. You can go to the Maine Morning Star for the entire letter. It is just so ridiculous. There is so much pushback when we're trying to get voter rolls cleaned. We're trying to find out in a number of states when you have more votes than you have voters, and everybody has all kinds of issues. They should look at what Maryland did. We talked about Maryland in last week's show. So you might want to look back at that on our vote notes on exactly how they responded. So yay, Maryland. Now we're going to go to Michigan. Michigan always has so much going on. Now, Michigan, this source is from the Michigan Public Radio, August 12th, 2025. And the next story is Michigan Advance, also from August 12th of 2025. Well, here's a surprise. 2 Hamtramck City Council members were charged with election fraud. Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel's office and other law enforcement agencies have been investigating election fraud complaints for some time. I like that, for some time. At least 4 years, if not longer. So 4 members of the city council were accused of filling out pre-signed absentee ballots, among other election-related charges. There's a number of different charges. Lots of political fallout over the claims of fraud by the city council to the attorney general, but it's been ignored. And the city manager, Max Garbino, was suspended after he suspended the police chief. There's whistleblower complaints and retaliation complaints. And Farajad, the city clerk, says, quote, blatant double standards here is infuriating, unquote. He said in a letter to the attorney general, I, as city clerk, if I deviated even slightly from election procedures, I'd immediately face investigation and prosecution. Yet somehow, when someone who brazenly breaks the law, they see no repercussions. If election integrity matters at all, enforcement needs to be consistent and fair. I completely agree with him. Absolutely. So they have some serious issues there. Now, the next story is about Michigan residents have sued Whitmer for failing to call for a special election to state Senate district. Now, the Democrats, of course, are whining, no, we don't want to have a special election. After more than 7 months without representation, the 25th Senate district, several residents are taking legal actions against Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. The suit by 7 residents complaint seeks a writ of mandamus from the court to compel the Democratic governor to initiate a special election for the open Senate seat. So it's been 7 months now that they don't have a representative. It's an open seat. And the former representative, Kirsten McDonald-Rivet, she was from the Democratic Bay City area, stepped down on January 3rd to serve in Congress. A Republican win would split the Senate chamber, And it could be the reason that she refuses to hold the special election to fill the seat. There's always something behind it. Why can't they just fill the seats so everyone has representation? So kudos to those 7 residents having to do a lawsuit to get the governor to do her job to fill a seat. But that's Michigan. Michigan has all kinds of issues all the time. Now we're going to go on to Nebraska. Nebraska, my source is from WJAG, and this was on August 13th. Nebraska election officials seek more poll workers amid national shortage. Say that 3 times fast. So the Nebraska Secretary of State, Bob Evnen, wants more Nebraska election workers. The counties need more than 9,000 people to fully staff the state's polling sites and county election offices for each election. Now, retirees historically make up the largest portion of the state's poll workers. So poll workers are paid for their training and for their service on election day. They must be at least 16 years of age. And if they're 18 or older, they have to be registered in that county. So Nebraska has a backup plan addressing the shortage of election workers, a draft. Now, Douglas County primarily uses this process, and it works a lot like jury duty. So the next statewide elections in Nebraska are in 2026. So we are encouraging everyone who has some time and wants to get involved in Nebraska, sign up to be a poll worker. As you can see, you got some high school students that can also do this because it's 16 or older. You'll get paid. You'll get paid for the training, and you'll get paid for election day. So let's hope people start getting involved now so they don't have to do what Douglas County does, which is doing what they do for jury duty and getting people involved. I think that was actually very innovative. I've never heard that before. I think that's a great idea. Now we're going to Nevada. Nevada, my source is the Nevada Globe, and this was from August 12th. Now, as you'll recall, a few episodes ago, we had Andy Thompson on from Nevada talking about all the different lawsuits and everything that he was working with in Nevada. I mean, again, kudos to him. He's fighting the fight. Now, he had put in for an emergency to have Nevada stop upgrading their system because it's wiping out all the evidence of potential illegal things that had gone on. Well, I did speak with him once I read the article, and he said that the court didn't have it as an emergency and has postponed it. And it's terrible what's going on out there. So he's, again, the registered voter, Andy Thompson, he's been battling the court over the pushback from the Secretary of State's attempt to dismiss his case. He wants updates to be halted on the voting machines that could erase the evidence of alleged irregularities. Now, some of the irregularities that he brought up was missing 27,000. That's over 41,500 additional mail-in ballots were reported and counted days after the election, but the mail ballot, for mail ballots, they counted them. That's on top of the missing ballots, but now we have 41,500 that came in, but fewer than 1,500 were for Trump, while 40,000 plus were for Harris. A staggering 96% undervote rate, which is unheard of in any presidential election. That's nuts. Thompson said there were about 20,000 such undervotes in Clark County alone, a figure that could actually have flipped a third of the down ballot races. And there's many other serious issues. And again, Andy said the court last Thursday said it wasn't an emergency and the destruction has continued, and he still has some other cases on appeal. Unbelievable how they just keep pushing back and trying to bury all the stuff that's out there, and now wiping the machines of the evidence. And we know someone who had stood up for that not happening, and that's Tina Peters in Colorado. And you saw what happened with her, which was just absolutely horrendous. So, Andy, we're supporting you with what you're doing. Keep it up. Thank you so much. Now we're going to go to Pennsylvania. And the source is the DV Journal. This was from August 11th, 2025. The Fair Election Fund gives Pennsylvania a C-. Now, the Fair Election Fund is a voting rights group, and you can go to thefairelectionfund.com and check them out. They found that the current decentralized system is not uniform across the 67 counties. For example, some counties can fix or cure defective ballots so they count, and in other counties, they can't. The lack of uniformity invites confusion. They also have documented voter fraud, multiple cases over the last few years. The report also criticized the statewide uniform registry of election system, calling it slow, outdated, and expensive. They also slammed the lack of voter ID and the potential for non-citizens voting. But of course, we have the Philadelphia election lawyer Linda Kearns, who says, quote, "While I applaud the interest in election integrity, which is my passion, voters should disregard Fair Election Fund report," unquote. Her continued comments kind of get extremely snarky, by the way. And quote, "I doubt the author has any formal legal training, and if they do, they should approach their law school for a refund," unquote. Go and check it out. The Fair Election Fund report. I would disregard what that snarky attorney said. You know, everyone is trying to make sure we have election integrity. I'd like to know what she's actually doing for that. It's better that we have things pointed out where there's a problem so it can be fixed instead of whitewashing or just telling people to ignore it because it will continue. That's not happening anymore. We have a new commander-in-chief for our country that is empowering people to continue to move forward to get election integrity in their local communities, in their own states, even with all the pushback. And believe me, we at Fight Voter Fraud know the pushback that we've been getting over the last 6.5 years. But I'll tell you right now, quietly behind the scenes, we have a lot of stuff that's moving forward. So we'll be able to talk about that in the near future. But we have to keep pushing. Keep pushing. So right now we're going to go to a quick break, and I'll be right back.
Infamous ballot drop box.
Wanda has been arrested.
Around the world, people are aware of Wanda, the ballot stuffer.
When fraud cancels you.
3 other Bridgeport Democrats were charged.
It's outrageous.
Take the freedom of our vote.
You gotta fight.
We're supposed to have quick justice.
Linda Sinkowitz is the election integrity watchdog in America's Corner. Digging into the data to scrub the voter rolls clean, protecting your rights, respecting our Constitution. For years, Linda's mission-driven advocacy has helped preserve the Republic, exposing corruption.
The Chief State's Attorney's Office is not doing their job.
Speaking truth to power. It's pretty simple. One vote for one legal voter. FightVoterFraud.org.
Join the Army.
Hi, and welcome back to Sinkwits. My name is Linda Sinkwits. I'm the founder and CEO of Fight Voter Fraud. You're watching us on OBBM Network TV, and this is actually episode 21. Earlier in the show, we had Raj Doraisamy from Defend Florida, who had a tremendous amount of information for everyone out there. So now we are going to go to the national info. And this is from Quiver Legislative Radar on August 9th. New bill representative Namika Williams introduces H.R. 4915, and it's an election mail act. So it was received on August 5th, 2025, and it already has 48 sponsors. Procedures to improve handling of election-related mail, especially absentee ballots for federal elections. The same-day processing of any absentee ballots by the USPS, that's the U.S. Postal Service. Intelligent barcodes on return envelopes on each mailed ballot for federal elections for better tracking. Postmark requirements. USPS must indicate on the envelope when the ballot was mailed, ensuring that voters can easily verify when their ballots were sent out for processing. And it's treated as first-class mail. And they also want no postage on the ballots. I completely agree with that. And they also want operational stability by the USPS. No operational changes within 120 days of an election. And election mail coordinators. USPS is to appoint coordinators to work with state and local election officials to ensure smooth processing for mailing election-related materials. President Trump gets his way. That won't be that big a job anymore because he has now said, as of yesterday, that they want to eliminate all the absentee ballots. 100% agree. There's a way we can work it out with the people who are infirmed or are unable to get their ballots. There will be a way worked out. But I also have to give kudos to the fact that they're bringing forward trying to make changes in the federal government at the U.S. Post Office to make sure election-related material is actually handled separately and properly and quickly. So that's a good thing. So now we're going to go to the vote notes. Now our vote notes is on the Gateway Pundit. And I got to give thanks to Gary. He's one of our listeners who had sent me this particular link. And it has to do with Michigan. The Michigan voter registration bombshell. Israeli addresses used to register multiple permanent absentee voters from a single Detroit coffee shop. And here's what they found. So with this, what you're going to do is you're going to click on the link for our vote notes, or go to our website and you can click on it, and then you can read the rest of the story because there's a lot of information in there. That's what we do every week with our vote notes, so you can get additional information. And again, if anybody else has any ideas for some stories they want us to run, please feel free to email us at info@fightvoterfraud.org. And also sign up and share on OBBM Network TV. That'll help us out a lot to get more of our shows out there to as many people as possible. So now we're going to go to our weekly trivia question. Double the last letter in the name of a strong cotton fabric to get the verb that means going through a district to solicit votes in person. The answer is canvass. There's a number of different ways to canvass, but that's our trivia question answer for the week is canvass. There's always a lot going on with election integrity. We want to make sure people are being vigilant out there. As Raj said, you need to be able to make a difference. He can lead, I can lead a number of people across the country with their election integrity. We can lead, but we need you to follow and be a leader in your own community. You actually can make a difference. We know we are, but that's because we have a lot of people helping, volunteering, and people that care about the people that are elected in their own communities. So our organization, Fight Voter Fraud, all we want is one vote for one legal voter. That's it. And, to be a U.S. citizen in order to vote. So we have been fighting for that. We also have been helping other people out. If you go to our website, fightvoterfraud.org, if you want to know the double registered, double voters in your district, in your area, fill out the form and we will send you our analysis. We do it. Anybody who wants it, you don't have to be an organization. You can be an individual because it starts with one person. So feel free to put in for our double voters, and it's an analysis. We're not selling voter rolls. What we're doing is doing an analysis of the voter rolls and other data that we have in order to pinpoint the people that may not be following the law. So we welcome you to do that. Now, Fight Voter Fraud, as well as OBBM Network TV, is promoting our show, Sinkowitz. And again, we're here to educate the public. And we want to be able to educate as many of you as possible while you're watching our program. And it's what we're all about. We're all about election integrity. Doesn't matter what party you're with. Everyone should want that. So please go to OBBM Network TV, like, share, let everybody know about our program. And I want to thank you for listening. I'm Linda Sinkowitz, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.